Hey everybody, welcome back to It Figures. Today we're going to take a look at the amazing Yamaguchi Magneto by Revoltech. Alright, so first things first, let's take a look at the box. So we've got this window showing off the figure itself, but of course we'll see that in just a moment. Figure complex Amazing Yamaguchi powered by Revoltech. Some nice photography of the figure there. So this is number 6 in this series, and of course it's Magneto. And you can see the sculptor's name and the company's down there. And of course this is an X-Men character brought to you by Marvel. On the side we've got some more photography of Magneto, just in some interesting poses. And on the other side, same information there, and then we've got these interesting kind of comic book style panels. On the top, once again, the same information, and then we also have this actually blue and gray version of Magneto. On the bottom is technical information, and we've got this nice picture of the X-Men there. We've got Cyclops, Emma Frost, and then in the middle is Magneto himself. Now, let's take a closer look at the back, shall we? There's a lot going on here. Just some photography showing off the articulation of the figure. It's got lots of quotes here as well, showing off the magnetic powers of Magneto as he takes down Logan and his adamantium bones. Of course, we've got a switchable helmet, which it's kind of showing off there. A rather pouty Magneto. And the magnetic powers. It's cool that he comes with real magnets. And then down here it's just showing the optional bits. So he's got the magnetic thing, some hands, and a couple faces. So let's get this open, shall we? In the back was this cool kind of thin cardboard piece that has a bunch of different pictures showing Magneto in different styles. Magneto and Cyclops, that's the picture that was on the bottom. Once again Magneto and Cyclops. And then Magneto with some more. As well as this big one from, it looks like Uncanny X-Men. The instructions show how you can well, put these in or use this. You can switch out the heads and mouths. And I guess this is, where his cape is attached? I don't know, I'll have to take a closer look at that. And in this bag is just extra pegs and the stuff to make his stand, so you can see right there. Magneto, you're wearing a diaper, buddy. Before we take a look at the figure itself, let's see what he came with, shall we? So first up, he comes with these 2 magnetic pulse rings, which are just printed on clear plastic there. In the rear, they can plug into his hands, and then in the front, they've got real magnets, so he can actually attach them to any kind of metal stuff. And that's just kind of like a printed airbrush-looking design. Next up are a pair of fists. Now, they're identical, so I'll just show one of them here, but as you can see, he's tightly clenched hand. Yeah, just his basic purple glove hand. He also comes with 3 pieces of cape, which I'm going to attach in just a second, but as you can see, they just plug into his back there. And they are ratcheted and jointed. Of course, last but not least, we've got his extra head. Now the faces can actually pop out and the eyes can actually move. And that's where this piece comes in handy. It'll go in there and you can make it a little adjustment on the eyes if you want. So you can have them looking over to the side or something interesting like that. The face can also come out just like that, and we can switch it out with the closed mouth face. And then of course you can have them with the hair, or you can swap that with the helmet. Pop this one into the helmet for some variation, so it's pretty nice. They seem to have done a good job on them. They kept the kind of old man look, like you had in maybe the 90s comics or something, that very angular old man look, with the cool gray hair, and his striking baby blues. Okay, so I'm going to put the cape onto him, and then we'll take a look at the figure itself. He looks a bit like Onslaught here. Okay, just before I put the cape pieces on, I wanted to point out how extremely hard it was to get these in. I'm even afraid to mess with them too much now. I had to boil these pieces just to get them to go into these 3 holes here. These ones are not for them. I think that might be for the stands, but I don't know if they didn't cut the hole big enough on each of these, or this part was too thick, or I don't know what was going on, but it was really, really difficult. Be careful when putting them in if you have the same problem, because you could easily break these. So I recommend either boiling these pieces or maybe using a hair dryer or something like that, because otherwise you're probably going to snap it when trying to push them in. Okay, so let's just look at the figure itself first. He looks good. The coloring is nice, the sculpting is nice. You can see there's some shading throughout the body. They have the pretty comic book accurate colors, this kind of purpley blue and then his deep blood red. There he's got all the pieces across his chest. His weird, I don't know, ring glove things. I've always wondered about those. He's extremely bulky, even compared to the Wolverine. He's actually pretty buff. As I said before, the sculpt work on the hair and the head are nice, as well as the removable helmet. So it looks like they've been trying out different knees all the time. So Wolverine just had this sort of curved in knee, which folds up but then leaves this piece. Magneto though, when he's standing and his leg is straight, it looks like that. And when he's bent his leg, you can actually push this piece up to kind of mask that joint a little bit. There's his feet. This is pretty loose, I'm surprised. The Wolverine, it was really tight when I got him, and the Spider-Man too, but this thing it barely does anything. And he's got the standard Yamaguchi articulation, so you can get him to cross his arms if he wants. He can completely fold those over. He's got quite the crunch on his stomach there. The cape is articulated on these 3 balls here, as well as the left and right ones having another joint on either side there and there to get a bit more range. Also, these top cape pieces can kind of lift up and move around a bit to both hide this articulation and to adjust to where they should be sitting on his cape, which is about there. Now Wolverine can do the splits really easily, as well as the Spider-Man, but Magneto doesn't seem to be able to do that. He can kind of go like this and this, but he can't really go out sideways from what I can tell. That's about all you're going to get. And his leg goes up that much and back that much. Articulation wise, he looks better than, especially better than the Spider-Man, whose articulation was really obvious. And I would say his articulation is better hidden than the Wolverine. But he does sacrifice a lot of articulation, it seems, compared to those other 2 figures. Now, as for some problems I'm having with this figure, because this massive cape piece, he cannot stand up on his own at all. I've tried it without these cape pieces on and then with these cape pieces on, and he just can't do it. Now, I suppose you could try to use the cape to prop him up, but then he would have to hunch down because it's not actually that long. Even if you were to extend it and fold it down, it wouldn't be enough. So you have to use this stand with him, but that means, it doesn't mean he has to be flying all the time, but it does mean you need this big stand popped into the back there to make him floating around. And even with the stand on, it's not really the best. You can use a screwdriver to tighten these a bit, but I find it still pretty easily goes back and forth even when tightened. Plus, this cape and the articulation is just kind of ugly, I feel. I've never really liked these types of articulated capes. They just look chunky and weird, even when you have them folded up kind of how they're supposed to be. I don't know. I just don't think it looks that great. It looks really dynamic in the photos and stuff, but when you're actually trying to handle it, you know, especially from the back, that doesn't really look very good, I would say. It's a bit more hidden from the front, but not enough in my opinion. I think honestly it would be better to take this off and replace it with like a matching color cloth cape. And because of his floppy little toe joints and things like that, I find this figure is extremely frustrating to try to pose. With the stand or without the stand, he's falling over all the time. Things are constantly kind of moving around and getting in the way. I'm a little bit disappointed actually with that aspect of this figure. He's very frustrating to deal with, especially after having to spend so much time trying to get these 3 things in, and after doing that he can't even stand up on his own and can barely stand up with this. So there you have it, the amazing Yamaguchi Magneto. Yeah, I don't know if I recommend this one or not. I think out of these 3 so far, Wolverine is by far the best one. The Magneto looks good when he's set up like this, but getting him posed and just dealing with the figure in general is a real frustration. So I don't know if it's worth it for you or not. But okay, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.